review and predictions podcast for Cage Side Combat. I'm Connor, and as always, I'm joined by Kyle.
Hello.
And Brad.
What's up, guys?
This is a mini version of our regular podcast where we just review the cards from last weekend and preview the cards for this weekend. Before we speak about the main event, we'll look at the predictions we made for last week. I've tallied up the scores, and the overall table now looks like this. In last place with 10 points is me, which I'm not very happy about. And controversially, both Kyle and Brad are joint first.
Oh.
With 13 points.
The comeback.
The winner of last week's predictions was Kyle with a mighty 5 points. So, looking at the card from last weekend's, what are our highlights from the week? What are our highlights from it?
The whole card was interesting, I would say. The highlight was probably the main event for me, just because I'm really enjoying Jeremy Stephens at the moment, and it was a really close fight. It was only 2 rounds, but both of them got dropped in those 2 rounds. A little bit of controversy around the stoppage, but it wasn't too important where it drags the whole event down, I don't think.
No.
Sorry, drinking water. I have to agree. The main event was absolutely fantastic. The whole card was brilliant from start to finish. It's people start to complain about the quality of these cards when they come every single week, but then it's often the ones that you don't anticipate come out as being absolute barn burners from start to finish. For me, the biggest surprise and the biggest highlight was Ilir Latifi submitting Ovin St. Preux. He came out and absolutely starched Ovin St. Preux, and I honestly hadn't got him in that fight. He definitely doesn't deserve the title shot he thinks he deserves, but at the same time, a bit of new blood in the top echelon of that division is always needed. But I want to give an honourable mention to my girl Jessica Andrade. She is probably my favourite, apart from Rose Namajunas, who's just probably the first girl on the planet. But Jessica Andrade is probably my favourite female MMA fighter. She's I was on voice chat with my mate watching the fights, and we were both just marveling at how strong she is. The way she manhandles people, it's just unreal. It's just unreal. Tisha put on a massive performance, but every time Jessica wanted her on the ground, she put her on the ground, and every time she wanted to beat her down, she beat her down. Her versus Rose, if Rose beats Joanna, is going to be one hell of a fucking fight.
Yeah. Definitely. I think bringing up what you said about Ilir Latifi, I think that's probably my highlight as well. But saying that he doesn't deserve a title shot is he's now number 5 in the rankings. I think I saw a crazy stat that he's the only one. I think he's the only one to have won 2 fights in the last year and to have not been beaten by DC. Or the only one in the top 10 rankings of the light heavyweight, and you're kind of who else can you give it to? And that's a problem, but also he would get smashed, but I think his shot for a title shot is legitimate.
I guess. It was impressive. The problem the reason the Ilir Latifi one for me wasn't a highlight is because I had Ilir Latifi to win. I thought he looked really good against Tyson Pedro, and then goes on to beat Ovin St. Preux, who's very, very good. But the problem is it's that was a great performance from Latifi, and it's now where do we go? I still don't want to see him fight for that title, really. I want to see Gus fight for the title, and then after that, I don't know.
Ozdemir?
I guess, but yeah.
But it's kind of, the light heavyweight was almost, I hate to say it, when John Jones was champion, and when he kind of started and first became champion, that was the most stacked division, and it was better than the welterweight. It was better than everything. But now, what does it have? It's almost it's kind of with DC and Gustafsson. They're the 2 standing at the top, and I can't see many others anywhere near them.
It becomes a much bigger issue when you realise as well, because obviously Gus hasn't got a fight at the minute. Ilya doesn't have a fight at the minute. So if you were playing anonymous matchmaker, you would put Latifi versus Gustafsson, but the best mates, they'll never fight each other. And it's like, well, you both need a fight while DC's not fighting like in light heavyweight. And so Gus is always going to be in the title picture just because of the 2 fights he had with DC and with John Jones. Latifi's not there. He needs to carry on the hype, but who is he going to fight? And like you suggested Özdemir, but there's now reports coming out that Özdemir is going to be fighting Glover Teixeira.
I don't want to see that.
Or at least it's in the works. I will say that I do want to see it for the reason that I want to see whether Özdemir's title run was a fluke, because he beat Misha Serkinov and then he beat Jimmy Manoa, and then also he's in the title picture, and then he got absolutely battered by DC. I don't want to find out that he was actually just a bum that got lucky. Like, I want him to beat Glover Teixeira to prove that there's a light heavyweight out there that's actually within the picture. I love Alexander Gustafsson more than anyone on this planet. Like, he's my favourite MMA fighter by a yard. But the problem is, he has a problem when he comes against heavy hitters, like we saw in the Rumble Johnson fight. Like, he got absolutely starched by him, and I feel like Özdemir is of the same ilk. Like, I think Rumble's much more diverse, but I think Özdemir has probably got the same amount of knockout power. So I don't like Gus's chance against Özdemir, and so I just want to see Gus fight for the title, and want to see Özdemir fight for what's left. And then in the future, if we have that fight, we have that fight. We'll come to that bridge when we cross it.
Yeah. I also quick little shout out to Alan Jouban. I thought he looked brilliant.
Yeah,
that fight,
great performance.
I was really surprised that fight didn't get pushed to a main card and make it a 5-fight main card, to be honest, because I thought that was one of the better fights going into it, and it was definitely one of the better fights on the actual night. Alan Jouban's striking looked so much better. It's been good before, but I never would have said, it's amazing. I would have said, he's got all right striking, but he just pieced Ben Saunders apart. So, yeah.
His setups were unbelievable.
Ridiculous.
Using the leg kick. And
I think he suffered quite a bad injury in the fight, which is a bit disappointing. He won't be able to capitalise on the momentum and get straight back in there. But, yeah, excited to see what he does next.
So, now looking forwards to UFC 222. Obviously, we spoke about it last few episodes ago now with the reshuffle of the card. But there are some very good matches to look out for. So, what are we looking forward to this weekend?
I'm one of the few people that honestly isn't massively excited for this card. I don't know what it is. I think it's just all the shuffling around has got me a little bit. The matchups feel a little bit rushed and stuff in places. There are some good fights. Obviously, my highlight would be Frankie Edgar versus Brian Ortega. Brian Ortega is one of my favourite fighters. He's one of the only specialists remaining when you think about it. But he's evolving. His striking is looking better every fight, it seems. But this is a huge test for him. But I'm still a little bit like, I'd much rather can we just skip to Max Holloway? Frankie Edgar, I love Frankie Edgar, but if you have favourite fighters in the same division as Frankie Edgar, you better get ready for him to crush your dreams, because he loves it. He loves people to overlook him, and I feel like that could definitely be a possibility.
Yeah, I have to agree that fight is definitely my favourite card, my fight on this card. The Frankie Edgar versus Brian Ortega. Brian Ortega is one of my favourite fighters at the minute. His last few submissions have just been absolutely outstanding. Like Kyle said, his striking's come on leaps and bounds. But Frankie Edgar he should change his nickname from The Answer to the Hype Killer, because he stomps all over people that are supposedly up and coming. So this will undoubtedly be Brian Ortega's best test. Why I like Brian Ortega in this fight is because he's almost the antithesis to what Frank Edgar laid out. Frank Edgar was one of the first people, especially in the lower weight divisions, to implement that strong wrestling ground and pound style that's become so dominant in MMA. I find quite a bit of exception to it. Not because it's a visually boring style, but just because in every single weight division we're finding that it's becoming so unbeatable that I'm just like, well, it's becoming a bit boring now. It's not mixed martial arts, it's wrestling with a bit of striking. Like when I watched the UFC 220 main event, I'm not going to lie, I was a bit sore because I backed Francis Ngannou. Yes, guys, including the Shakira. But
I backed him because of Shakira.
Yeah, I was more in because of the Shakira. I was like, yes, mate, Shakira, the actual GOAT. But what pissed me off more was because we're seeing at every weight division now, it's just wrestling and ground and pound. And one of the main things about MMA that makes it so interesting is we see this ebb and flow between styles, dominance and sort of antidote, poison and antidote. And so we have this dominant top position wrestling style that's so prevalent at the minute. What you see in Brian Ortega, is the antithesis to that. It's this combat jiu-jitsu, this aggressive jiu-jitsu style that him and Tony Ferguson don't give a fuck if they're on the underneath. That's where they want to be. They're going to pull guard because that's exactly where they want to be. You pull guard because you want to throw ground and pound, and guess what? A triangle's coming your way, bitch. T-City, I think, can pull this off. It's going to go one or two ways. Either way, it's going to be a decision for Frankie Edgar. It's going to be a late submission by Brian Ortega. And I'm going to be hopeful, and I'm going to say Brian Ortega takes this. And if he does, him versus Max Holloway, I think, is a far more interesting fight than Frankie versus Max. Because Frankie versus Max is either going to stay on the feet and just be a striking exchange, or he's going to go on the ground and Max is going to lose. And then, don't get me wrong, I love Frankie Edgar. I think he's amazing. I think he really is one of the greats of the sport. But does anyone want to see a 36-year-old become the featherweight champion? Like, how long has he really got left in the sport? Like, I want in my champions longevity. I want to believe that they can defend for 10 years and become one of the greatest of all time. I don't want them to take the belt and then a year later go, you know what, this really isn't for me. So, Brian Ortega via light submission. That's what I'm going with.
I was going to say, we'll swiftly move on into the predictions for this card. So we're going to do all 5 fights on the main card. We've got the return of Kat Zingano opening the cards. Kyle, who do you have in that fight?
The trouble with this one is we don't know how good Kat Zingano is going to look, but I'm going to be hopeful and say Kat Zingano via decision.
Right.
Yeah, Ketlin Vieira has looked amazing. I mean, she's undefeated. I love Kat Zingano. I think she's fucking gorgeous. I think her fighting style is absolutely amazing. But just the confidence of being an up-and-coming undefeated fighter, I'm going to go with Ketlin Vieira via decision.
I've gone with Zingano via decision. I kind of the same as Kyle. I really like Kat Zingano, and I just hope she does well. But I kind of see Brad's point by this is a good name to kind of put yourself into the spotlight if you get a good victory over Zingano.
I think my entire philosophy in all these picks is just like, I'm just going to pick the underdog because then when I'm right, I'm going to be like, I fucking told you.
So, moving on to the true main event.
People's main event.
The real main event.
UFC 222, Struve versus Arlovski.
So, Kyle, who do you have in the battle of possibly the 2 greatest heavyweights of all time, I think?
Yeah.
I think I'm fair in saying that.
Yeah, you want to talk about super fights, DC versus Miocic. This is where you begin. Stefan Struve versus Andrei Arlovski. Stefan Struve, I'm going to say he finishes Arlovski in the first round. I think if Stefan Struve doesn't finish Arlovski in the first round, it's an L for Stefan Struve. It's got to be.
Knockout or submission?
That's a tough one, actually. I'll say he gets the TKO.
Brad?
Yeah, TKO via first round. I think I agree. if Stefan goes for a takedown, he's admitting that he's losing. And if he goes to the second round, it's a moral loss for Stefan Struve. So yeah, first round TKO, same.
I've got Struve decision. I just think this is going to be awful.
Yeah.
And if there has ever been a fight that I'm worried about falling asleep to, it is this fight. I think I may have to set multiple alarms up throughout this fight just to keep me going.
Yeah.
Or perfect toilet break, either way.
Yeah, well.
I just, every time I see, like, I was watching the countdown the other day, the Stefan Struve, he's unnervingly tall. Like, you see him sparring against, like, really tall guys that are, like, 6'2", and he's, like, 8 inches taller than them. You're like, Jesus Christ, he's so massive. It's unreal. I don't understand how he's a professional fighter.
So, moving on now. Sugar Sean O'Malley, and I was worried about this, versus Andre Sukamatha. I butchered that name.
Absolutely.
I don't know how
kudos to you, because that's a far better pronunciation I could ever.
Sukamatha, I think I'll go with.
Suvlaki.
I don't know, but Kyle, who do you have in this fight?
I actually saw. I think a lot. This people are seeing Sean O'Malley, and that's why this fight's on the main card. I did see some clips of. We'll call him Andre.
Arlovski.
No, not Andre. Arlovski.
Two Andres.
Unfortunately, he cannot fight twice in the same night. That would be a real success. Pay-per-view that.
If Sean O'Malley didn't finish Andre Arlovski in the first round, I think that would also be
a L for Sean O'Malley. And I saw some clips of Andre, and he looked good, and he's got some hands, but I don't really know enough about him, and I've watched Sean O'Malley, and I'm hoping that this is just another fun Sean O'Malley fight where it does some crazy striking and gets the finish, second round TKO.
Yeah, I'm gonna what do you call it? Cash in on the Sean O'Malley hype as well and say first round TKO. I have no idea who this Andre guy is, and I have even less idea how to pronounce his second name. So I'm not even gonna even if I was to pick him, I would pick Sugar Sean O'Malley just because I can actually say his name. First round TKO. Let's get this done. Let's get the high building. Bantamweight needs it.
I've got Sean O'Malley, second round KO. I pretty much you two explained it both the best. Moving on now to the co-main event. Frankie Edgar, Brian Ortega. We've spoken about this quite a lot already, but Kyle, who do you have?
I'm going to go with Brian Ortega, third round submission. I think I'm a little bit worried about it because I don't like picking the really obvious one, and Frankie Edgar's such a veteran that it's like, will he really be caught in a submission? But I mean, so far I've bet that Brian Ortega will get the submission despite the fact that's what everyone thinks is going to happen. And he got it on Cub Swanson. I don't see why he can't get it on Frankie Edgar. So, yeah, submission in the third round.
Brad?
Same. Submission in the third round. I don't think Brian starts fast enough for Frankie. I don't think the second round is going to make much difference. But I think in the third round, that wrestling pedigree that he has is just going to expose his neck far too much. Because, Brian is not just a jiu-jitsu black belt. He's a prodigy when it comes to Brazilian jiu-jitsu. I will say this, though. With my pick, I'm going to add a slight asterisk. And I want no points for this if I get it right. I'm just going to say, if it's not that, it's a Frankie decision.
I'm really annoyed because both of you have taken my choice.
Yeah.
I'm going to shout out Verdict because I really am looking for that sponsor. Please sponsor us, Verdict. But
at Verdict MMA, come on.
Yeah, this is our at Verdict predictions.
Nice.
But I chose this. I'm going to say months ago. It wasn't all months ago, but I was like, I'm certain Ortega third round sub. But because you two have both picked it, I'm going to change it.
Ooh.
And I'm going to go first round sub for Ortega.
Playing devil's advocate.
I don't know how, and I don't know why, but I'm just going to go first round sub. I think I'll say Ortega catches him, surprises him with his striking and catches him, and then finishes him by sub on the ground.
See, now you're both making me really worried because everyone's going Ortega, and this is normally the point where everybody's wrong, and Frankie just comes out and batters him, and everyone's like, "Oh, the hype train's derailed."
Yeah.
How many times have we had that?
But I don't see that when I see Ortega. I'm just like, I don't think it is clever promoting. I think he's definitely a grappling prodigy, and his striking's not bad. Like, he's not a one-track horse. He's pretty good on the feet as well. So, like, I'd much rather see him versus Max than I would Frankie versus Max. I really would.
I agree. So, moving on to the main event now. Possibly one of the least hyped main events in a long while. Chris Cyborg versus Yana Kunitskaya. How do we see this going, Kyle?
The betting man inside of me is so tempted to just put it all on Kunitskaya. Stagiana. But I'm just gonna play it safe in terms of predictions and say Chris Cyborg TKO. Third round, maybe. I think probably the first 2 rounds are a little bit slow. That's kind of Cyborg's thing at the moment. She kind of takes a little bit longer to work opponents out and then just blasts them. So, yeah. Third round? Third round TKO. Cyborg.
Cool. Brad? Go on, pick the underdog. Pick the underdog.
See, I'm just a contrarian by nature. Yeah, I'm gonna pick Yana Kunitskaya. I can barely fucking say her name. Yana Kunitskaya via. You know what? Why not? If we're going in, we might as well go all in. First round TKO. I read an article the other day about how Cyborg's reign is most likely going to come to the end by the laws of the MMA gods, and it kind of persuaded me. I've watched a lot of Kunitskaya's previous fights, and she's an excellent kickboxer, and she's at least competent on the ground. Whether that's going to be enough, I don't know, but let's be honest, it's not like I'm losing anything here, so why the fuck not? Kunitskaya first round KO/PKO. I'm allowed that differential just because I'm at like a minus 1500 loss right now, so
I'm gonna go Cyborg second round KO. Just it's gonna happen, isn't it? I don't know if this would be one of the biggest shocks, but this would be a enormous shock if Kunitskaya did win. As you said, her striking's good. She's got good Muay Thai and kickboxing, but Cyborg's just the best ever female fighter.
I'm going to offer you another prediction on top of all of this. So the real main event. Will Brad actually stay awake to watch this card? If not, what fight will he make it to on the main event?
Stephen Struve.
He's going out Friday. I can't. Friday night out. I can see him having an early night Saturday. He's an old man now. He's an old man.
My actual plan so far is to stay out so late on Friday that my body clock is timed right for this, so that I wake up around about midnight. Personally, I'm betting about Kat Zingano versus Vieira. That's where I'm planning to get to.
Can I just say, because I was just thinking about this when we were on about Andre Arlovski, can he fight multiple times in one night? Would you be more excited for this pay-per-view if it was Cyborg versus Arlovski? Because I would. Who doesn't?
Yes.
I want to see
straight
that.
away. Yes.
Right. In this modern era of progressivism, I want to see Cyborg fight a man. Even if we start at bantamweight and we move our way up, I want to see it happen. Because I think we've said this in a podcast before. Cyborg versus Max Holloway, I see that as a pretty legit fight.
It is.
Like, I don't see Cyborg being completely outclassed. I do see Max winning, but I don't think it's as one-sided as people think. I mean, whether that's just a testament to Cyborg's gender issues. I don't know.
Issues.
And on that thought, we're going to leave it there.
Gender issues.
Before we.
And to any
before we
lawyers
get
out
into
there,
more
my
issues.
views do not represent the entire cage side combat
Yeah, definitely.
establishment.
Definitely not everyone's opinions, okay? But we're going to conclude our mini version of our podcast, our review and prediction podcast here. So where can they find you on Twitter, Brad?
Stupid Flanders with the extra S.
Kyle?
Kyle_Diamond.
And I'm Connor.Whelan73. Shout out Verdicts MMA. Please follow us. And please sponsor. We'd appreciate that very much.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening, and we'll see you with a full podcast next.